session, which is opportunities for Indian startups in the UK and the role of the Department for International Trade. I'll kind of start off with a brief overview of what UK has to offer for Indian startups to build a collaborative environment between the two countries, and then introduce you to a panel of stellar startups from India that have already seen what UK has to offer. Setting the context for this afternoon session, I would touch upon a couple of areas which I'm sure you would find very useful. The first thing, going back to 2 years ago, I want to talk about the UK-India tech partnership, which has played a very important role in the relationship between UK and India. The UK-India tech partnership was signed by the then Prime Minister of UK, PM May, and PM Modi. And it was decided to catalyze innovation and technology from both countries to address global challenges. As a result of the UK government partnership, we undertook various programs and initiatives to create a platform for collaboration between the tech ecosystem in the UK and India. Some interesting programs like the Tech Rocket Ship helped multiple startups from India scale and gain exposure to global markets. The next very important element that I would want to focus on is the UK's industrial strategy. The UK's industrial strategy has identified 4 areas that are relevant for industry and government life to be working on. These include the future of mobility, clean growth, aging population, and AI and data. These are equally important for the Indian ecosystem to be addressing as well. Indian startups with solutions in these areas would find a natural partnership with the ecosystem in the UK to jointly find solutions to these global challenges. A new £3 million Innovation Challenge Fund realizes the UK-India vision of bringing the greatest minds of both countries together to combat some of the toughest global challenges, including COVID-19. The objective is to break down barriers to growth, including building international links, and to capitalize on regional and sectoral strengths in order to drive innovation-led inclusive growth. A few features of this UK-India collaboration is to be looking at opportune sectors, particularly relevant in these times. The first one I would talk about is healthcare. There are areas like AI in healthcare, healthcare data, digital health, medtech that can build healthcare capacity in general, last mile and first mile healthcare delivery models. The next element is future mobility, which includes elements like intelligent transport systems, trip repurposing technology, demand supply matching, EV and low carbon technology. The next important element that we believe the UK and India can significantly contribute towards is AI and data. Another important element is agriculture and food, and tech can be a great enabler to solving problems in this sector. There could be predictive analytics of weather, cultivation patterns, climate change in agriculture, distribution systems, etc. And the last sector that I wouldn't be tired talking about is EdTech, which is absolutely relevant in the current times. So with this background, let me introduce you to the panel for today, where we'll hear about their journey, their story, and how they have benefited from involving in the UK tech ecosystem. The first member I would introduce is Mr. Raj Pani, who is the founder of Zaggle. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Vishal Reddy, who is the founder of Wowsome. And finally, Mr. Raja Gayam, who is the founder of Gayam Motorworks. Welcome everyone to this discussion. Let's start with a very brief introduction about your companies and what you have been doing in the tech ecosystem in India, globally. Start off with you, Raj.
Thanks, Siddharth, and your story, and welcome to the other panelists. Yeah, I am a serial entrepreneur. For the last 25 years, I've built various companies, raised multiple rounds of funding. And given sit to, two companies. Today, I am the executive chairman for a company called Zaggle, which is a B2B fintech company. We basically digitize spends, for corporates and enterprises. And we have about 4,000 corporates with whom we work. And, it's so good to be, connecting to Siddharth and then connecting to the, FinTech Forum in London. It has been a pleasure. Look forward to, having an engaging conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Raj. Next, I would invite Vishal to introduce himself. Hi, Vishal.
Thanks for having me here. I run a family of experts in extended reality technologies by the brand name Bawsum. And extended reality technologies like AR, VR, and MR basically create the best of immersive experiences today. We have a 5-year history of creating thousands of immersive experiences across industries and business areas. Immersion is basically applied in doing a set of tasks, visualizing people and objects, and asking for help, like remote help and remote assistance, which are kind of the current hot topics since the coronavirus pandemic. But we've been doing this for the last 5 years, and we're in a nice situation where we say, I told you so.
Thanks, Vishal. That's very nice to learn about. Raja, exciting stories from the automobile sector now.
Hi, Siddharth, and the rest of the panel and your story. This is Raja. I'm the CEO of Gayam Motorworks. We are an electric mobility company based out of Hyderabad. Our primary product is an electric three-wheeler called Smart Auto. So with that, it's extremely popular with last mile delivery services like IKEA, Amazon, Big Basket, Flipkart, and various last mile delivery services. So we also got our product certified for Europe, and UK was the first country where we introduced our vehicles outside of India, Nepal, and Uganda. So from UK, we already have a distributor there, and we have also set up a setup shop at an incubator called Plexel. So from there, we plan to take care of the European operations in the coming 6 to 1 year's time. Of course, COVID halted our plans. So now, once situation stabilizes, we plan to start operations in UK as well.
Thanks, Raja. I think the panelists kind of represent the right mix of sectors that Hyderabad has to really offer, because we see AR, VR, and everything virtual, then fintech, and then auto, which is not very commonly seen in many parts of the country, but I'm pretty proud of Gayam Motors having succeeded out of Hyderabad. So this is a common question to the three of you. Having worked closely with the UK government in the past and currently working, do you think global collaboration has been a key to your success and your journey that you envisage in the future? So Raj, do you want to take that?
Yeah, thanks, Harsha again. In fact, I think it's a beautiful, opportunity, to learn from the global leaders, especially, when you look at open banking or let's say neo banking, and you look at, what kind of innovation has happened, in banks or in the fintech industry across, Europe. It is unimaginable. Okay, today, for everything we go to the bank, whether it is a loan, whether it is we want to do a deposit, whether we want a housing loan, or we have to, do our current business banking, everything is dependent on bank. Okay, so what we learned and the kind of, UI, UX the bank has, and the kind of, the time which you basically spend in getting a transaction, done through, through core banking is a long time, right? And that is getting disrupted. And I personally say that, we have learned a lot, during this collaboration with, some of the companies in London, especially, or in England, I would say. And we saw that how they were revolutionizing the entire process of banking. So, one thing which struck me, at the end of those conversations was that eventually, maybe in 10, 20, 30 years, banks would just become the custodian of our money, and nothing else. It would be like they are holding our escrow accounts, whereas, better, faster, nimble, and with a a large vision, these fintech companies eventually would take over those banks. Okay, so bank would just be the trust which is regulated. Fintech with some kind of regulation would be able to run most of the operations in a much more efficient manner.
So just a follow-on question, Raj. You say regulation is an important element to the fintech industry. How far up the curve is India in terms of regulations for the fintech sector, and is there any global lessons that we need to be incorporating here?
See, India is a very complex country. As all of us know that in India, the moment you open the regulation, okay, and make it more fair, and it has to do with money. We saw, what they did with the crypto, right? Crypto was basically nothing else but, virtual money. They just went ahead and, just shut it down, okay? And when RBI tells the banks not to, not to work with entities who are dealing in cryptocurrencies, it's typically telling them, to shut off the business. But, is that the best way? See, sometimes what happens is regulation is important, but we should not overdo it, right? And overdoing regulation would push us down the curve, right? We have had multiple opportunities in the past. So India is an economy, which missed the, the web revolution, okay, which I would call the web revolution was completely missed by India. India took on the mobile revolution, okay, and we saw that the number of thanks to Jio, others, the mobile revolution has been absolutely up the curve. Now look at the same thing. What can banking do for any transaction to happen? Banking has to be there, and if India looks at it positively and says that we have to do little bit opening of regulation, which would help customers, consumers do transactions in a better, faster way, they should do it, is what I think.
Thanks so much for that. So Vishal, your solution is probably applicable across the globe, and in the current situation, I think globalizing your solution is possibly the best thing you can do. How has your journey been, and if you can throw some light on that?
I think naturally for company at any stage today, going global is part of the bucket list. Yeah, it depends on a lot of strategic variables, right? When do we go global? But especially in my case, when I started Immersive Technologies, then we called ourselves a mixed reality marketing company. That's the first person who's doing a lot of marketing campaigns. When I was doing that in India, typically our environment, everybody tells you that you're probably doing the wrong thing or you don't know what you're doing, including from your own home, plus, you have multiple layers over there. When you have conversations globally, you hear the other end of the spectrum where people are encouraging and excited about the possibilities. Yeah. So for an entrepreneur, it makes it easy to continue your grit and courage and perseverance, having the global outlook. You'll have a lot more information. You'll have higher quality conversations, which you can bring back home, yeah, to teach your own ecosystem, both internal and external. I think that's it was like guiding light or a good source of information and power that has been, yeah, especially the UK ecosystem in my journey over the last few years.
Moving on to Raja, you're from the electric mobility sector, and I believe you consolidated your position pretty much in India before you looked at global markets. Was that really the story, or have I got it wrong? And how did you approach globalizing your product and technology?
When we started off, the product was basically designed for the Indian market. So Indian customer was at the forefront of our design. So when we produced a vehicle that is good enough for Indian market, then you can pretty much sell this vehicle in various developing countries around the world. So that is what we started off doing. So our initial set of customers were mostly last mile delivery service companies, which were looking to save costs. And saving costs is the most important factor for most of these companies. Of course, the environmental benefit comes in as a sweetener. So what we realized is during that process, we were mostly interacting with global companies like IKEA, Uber, Amazon, Flipkart, which was acquired by Walmart. So whatever we did here, we had we could actually showcase ourselves, and people could relate. People outside the country also could relate to the product. And to our surprise, we never designed our vehicle for keeping in mind the European market, but there is a lot of demand that is coming in from Europe, UK and Europe. So mostly three-wheelers were seen as mostly fun kind of vehicle in the UK. But once we sent the initial set of samples, what we realized was that more than the fun aspect of it, UK is aggressively switching towards cleaner and greener mobility. And our product was fitting in perfectly into the last mile delivery space. So once we entered the UK market, then we realized that UK was a little more easier to enter compared to the other European markets. So we realized that there was a good market in Europe for our product, and we got our product certified for Europe as well. Compared to the usual certification in India or other places, the norms are a little stringent, but we were able to get through that. So we were the first Indian three-wheeler manufacturer to actually have a UK certification, European certification for our product. So once you have European certification, basically your product is valid everywhere, wherever you want to sell these things. And second thing was because you were able to, people were able to see the vehicles in action in these countries. It was much more quicker for other countries to simply take a decision.
That's pretty interesting. Your vision was to look at developing countries, and you stumbled upon an easy route through the UK to the European market. That's a great story, Raja. I'll get back to you, Raj. Fintech in London kind of is almost like a combination made in heaven, if I may call it so. What is your view of the UK-India fintech scene and collaboration going forward? Do you think Indian companies would be looking at the UK, Indian fintech companies would be looking at UK as a serious player, or is the market very crowded, or the other way around? Do you think UK fintech players would look at the Indian market to be collaborating?
Yep. So Siddharth, if you look at it, there are many UK players who have already entered into India or planning to enter into India, and and the same way, if you look at the Indian companies, for Indian companies, UK has been, if you look at fintech, a lot of Indian companies have been in the UK for a longish time, providing the entire back-end technology piece. But what I see is now that, for example, for our launch of, India's first, a green credit card, which we are launching. And I'm also following Raja so that, I also do something related to green in fintech. So, our product is called Founders Card. It is a corporate, credit card, which we are launching. And the first country we are looking to expand into is UK. And the reason is because, the appetite in the market is very, very large. Okay. And we have a, differentiating product, should be able to, do much better and sound, an English product. Okay. And the reason is that, the SMEs across the world, they speak the same language. And this Founders Card is basically, for the founder of startups as well as SMEs. And we should be able to provide credit at a very, very, predatory rate. Okay. And as well as the access to information, the spend analysis, the cashback, the reward programs, and a community, a community of all the founders who are in SME and who are part of Founders Card. We are trying to make a global community. So, the first step was to build something in India. Now take that, whatever we have built in India, to go ahead and, take it to the UK.
That's very interesting. So you have got a very beautiful secondary benefit out of this whole product itself, which is creating a community of founders, which in itself can be a great value to your customers,
Yes.
more than your core product, for all you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Vishal, I know that you have had an exciting journey with the UK in terms of undertaking and collaborating, doing collaborative research and development with the UK. Would you kind of throw some light on your R&D journey in the UK? Because UK is also known for a great destination to do collaborative R&D for Indian companies. So if you can throw some light on that, that would be great.
Yes, Siddharth. So in India, we got very, very good at creating extremely fast solutions using established platforms. Yeah, you know what I mean. In software, so we can quickly design solutions and use an existing SDK or platform. And for example, in immersive tech, you have the Apple AR Kit, Android AR Core, PTC Vuforia. These are engines that have taken billions to build. Yeah. And what we do is quickly add the front end, back end, the user experiences, and create solutions for clients. While we're really good at this, the scope for R&D is minimal. Firstly, because the team is so involved in operations and developing this on a daily basis. And general, all of us know in our environment, uh, the mind space for R&D and the motivation for R&D is less. The skill sets also do not support that kind of out-of-the-box thinking. A lot of the engineers come from colleges that do not have that kind of outlook. So what UK provided, well, first when DIT approached and we did some trips, naturally I thought, like Raj just said, our products, our services, new market. All right. But then after the first few meetings and networking with all the universities and seeing the very strong ecosystem of grants and loans and Innovate UK and UKRI, all these organizations that are so strong, it felt like now is the opportunity to actually invest and create new products in this market. Yeah, and it sort of provided disconnect from the home company, the main company, so that R&D is happening independently with the direction, with the same values as the parent company, but in that environment which is more conducive to R&D. Yeah, this is what is given us, and from a long-term perspective, from any company scaling up, creating products, is the high-value strategy rather than doing services, even no matter how good you are at it.
Thank you, Vishal. And Raja, I think the UK government's agenda for clean growth is kind of known to everyone. And kind of your solution kind of perfectly fits into that narrative. Can you elaborate a little more about how you went about your UK journey and when we can see possibly the Gaia Motorworks three-wheelers whizzing around the streets of London?
We used to work with global companies, whether it is IKEA, Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket. So these are companies that are known in various locations, and we started becoming a little popular on LinkedIn as well. So inquiries have started pouring in from UK mostly. UK had this tuk-tuk culture where people used to have tuk-tuk as a toy. More of a toy kind of thing where they used to enjoy their summers or used to take this vehicle whenever they had grandchildren coming in into the house. So those kinds of inquiries for the initial ones that we received, and once we received those inquiries, we started sending a few vehicles there. Later on, once we got in touch with the embassy and London and partners after that, so the pace started picking up. So they actually started talking about us in various forums. They introduced us to an incubator, mobility incubator called Plexel, which is extremely active in providing mobility solutions as well as working as a test bed for deployments in the UK. So before someone deploys it in real world, they usually try it out in the Plexel campus. So once we were there, we were able to interact with a lot of decision makers from companies like DPD or UPS, and we were able to pitch our products to them. And right now we are at an advanced stage where these vehicles, some of the vehicles have already been bought by last mile delivery services, but now hopefully we should sell some of the vehicles to UPS and DPD that will take us to another level in UK and rest of Europe as well.
That's brilliant, Raja. So for an Hyderabadi three-wheeler to be assembled in the UK and sold across Europe, it's like a great story. Thanks. I'll come to the last question that I have for all of you. If you had to give one piece of advice to a young entrepreneur based on your experience, what would that one piece of gyan be?
I'll give you a quick one-liner. Okay, for all budding entrepreneurs, listen to your customer if you know who is your customer. Okay, so before you start, figure out who is your customer and then just listen to them. Rest is all a process which will follow.
Perfect. Thanks, Vishal.
Being a first generation entrepreneur, I would feel the foremost quality, which I think everybody knows, is grit. Yeah, grit is just courage, perseverance, strength, the ability to keep going and having a positive emotion. So that is taken. Most people who think of quitting a job and getting into entrepreneurship is like they know it's difficult, they know they have to keep going and all that. Yeah. But initially, in my initial learning years, what I felt was missing, which I quickly acquired, was mindfulness. Especially lack of experience uh, makes us not see things for what they are, yeah, not being mindful, aware enough, and sort of seeing them the way you want to see them, maybe a little more positively. Usually it's more positive. You want to believe that it's going to work out, and miss the facts, and let your emotions influence your decisions. So absolute mindfulness, high level of emotional quotient, I think are the most important apart from grit.
Raja, finally, words of wisdom from you.
I think Raj and Vishal have already talked about the points I wanted to tell as well. So first one is make mistakes and learn from them quickly, and don't repeat those mistakes again. Most of many people waste a lot of time trying to not make a mistake. So that would be wrong, is what I would say. So you need to make mistakes, learn from them, and do not repeat them. And get your product out quickly, and then listen to your customers, like Raj said, and then iterate upon the processes so that you listen to them and then come up with a product that suits their requirement. So these two are key in any entrepreneur's journey. The rest of the things you will learn. You are intelligent enough to learn from your mistakes and then not repeat them.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Raj. Thanks, Vishal, and thanks, Raja, for this interactive session. I'm sure the audience has learned a great deal from your valuable inputs during this session. And here's wishing you the very best for your journey in the UK and for everything that you'll be doing. Thank you so much. I'm sure you found the session to be extremely useful, as I have found it to be. Young entrepreneurs listening to this session would have global ambitions, and the Department for International Trade, the UK government, would be extremely glad to work with you to realize your global ambitions. Thank you, and best of luck.